Alright then, hello everybody, this is the EpicGamingGuru once again, and this might be one of the last videos I have to work on for the rest of this week, or I might have to pull in another one. At this rate, I have no idea. There's a lot to talk about, especially with the fact that Dead Frontier is about to have one of the biggest roadmap drops I've ever seen out of any video game. I wish I was being just a bit sarcastic about that because of the amount of stuff that I have to talk about in this video, but I'm going to try to summarize everything as fast as I physically can, because if I were to talk about every little thing on the roadmap individually, this entire video would be damn nearly 2 to 3 hours long just for me to talk about everything at one go. So I'm going to talk about what's going to be in the game from now on based on what Clayton has done for the updates. And I also want to go ahead and explain to everybody that if a game is having updates that are changing the gameplay style or the perspective, like progress in it, then I might actually be willing to go back and redo certain things that I've done in my videos, but that really depends on the circumstance. It completely depends on how these updates are going to change the game, both gameplay and progress wise. And well, also to be honest, this is being worked on a very small development team. I mean, as far as I could tell, it was only Clayton who was actually the main developer for this game, so I don't know if he's actually doing it by himself or with an actual other big structured group that's trying to help develop this game. I don't know any of that information, so if somebody could tell me in the comment section about that, that would be very handy. But let's move on. One thing I also want to point out about these updates in general with the roadmap is that there was actually a very hidden update that I didn't even know was going to occur or happen in Dead Frontier, where any player can actually use just about every single weapon in the game regardless of your statuses of being able to be proficient with it or not. The funny thing is that Dead Frontier 2 already had a system like this, but you were able to use weapons but not to their full proficiency, which was the same thing that was added into Dead Frontier, which I find kind of interesting. So I did want to point that out. That was one secret little update I didn't expect to be put in the game, and now you can pretty much use just about every single weapon regardless of what type of levels you have within its proficiency, as weird as that is to explain. Alright, so aside from the proficiency overhaul change when it comes to weapons and gear, the thing I also found kind of interesting is what they did with the food and medicine overhaul. You see, before in Dead Frontier, food items and medical items can only be used at a certain level. If you tried to use items that were lower tier level than what you were, they would have a very nerfed effect on your character. Now all food and medicine items now work perfectly on your character regardless of what level you are, so it is really nice to see that you are able to use whatever food and actual health items you can find regardless of how long you've been playing the game and leveling it up. One of my favorite changes that they recently also added within the 4 updates was the implant storage and presets. So basically how the way this works is that you're able to now store implants in its own separate storage instead of needing to require to be using your own in the regular storage. Yeah, so that sounds weird to explain. So basically you have your own storage within the actual location that you're safe in, and then you have your own separate storage that's personal on your character just for implants. It's weird, but it's effective. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna complain about this because it does get to a point where you have a ridiculous amount of implants that will cost up a lot of storage. So it is really nice to see this kind of update in the game as well. The last 4th update that was implemented was the stealth overhaul. Now, it was kind of interesting when I was reading the patch notes to get an idea of how this was working, and also I want to go ahead and say in advance I'm sorry for any type of background noise you guys may have heard in the last little bit of a segment when I was talking about the last update. But I do want to mention that the stealth overhaul as to how it works is a little bit strange, but it's interesting. So the way the stealth overhaul works in this game is that it was supposed to basically help you sneak around zombies a little bit easier when it comes to buildings, because a lot of zombies, for some disturbing reason, we're able to hear and see players through walls, which is a massive bug, I guess is the best way to describe it. So what the stealth overhaul did was make it so zombies were now being able to be stealthed across instead of needing to fight every single zombie you could find either in a building or outside. This also added a new status to the characters called survivability or survival, which basically makes it so if the higher it is, not only does your actual food increase for its nourishment when it comes to the actual status, in other words, it increases the amount of time it takes before your character is completely hungry, and it also increases the stealth options for players who want to just go loot and run throughout buildings. I don't know why this required a whole new proficiency stat in order to be able to put it into the game, but it's something really nice they added regardless. Now the funny thing is that there's still a whole lot more content and different updates that are going to be added into the game based on what I'm seeing when it comes to the actual roadmap itself, and normally yes, I would talk about each one of these, but honestly, I can't really talk about the last of these until they're added into the game because there could be changes that are going to happen in between them being added into Dead Frontier, based on what I'm seeing and what I'm reading on the forums. So overall, after all these 4 different updates to the game, can I actually say that Dead Frontier changed enough for me to be able to change my review of it from being a major grindy game? No. The answer is no. The reason why it's a no is because of the fact that I'm still waiting for the rest of the updates to be added into the game. I know that the game is going to have some serious major changes by the time this roadmap is completed, and with based on what Clayton wants to do for the game, I can understand why he wants to change it and try to make it a little bit more fluent versus how Dead Frontier is now. But either way, everybody, this is going to be the end of this entire video. This has been EpicGamingGuru. Like and comment down below if you have anything you guys want to share with me or what your thoughts are on the actual roadmap for Dead Frontier as well. But either way, I hope you all are having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all next time.